How you doing, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Landstar, and you're going to have my unadulterated thoughts because they can no longer fire me for telling the truth. So stick around. When you put yourself out there onto social media, you need to be cognizant of what's coming out of your mouth because you represent that company. If a person is working for a particular company and they have thoughts about that company, you're gonna get somewhat of a biased view. Landstar is kind of quick to fire you. I was always a little bit hesitant to talk about anything negative. So in this video, you're gonna get my actual thoughts about what I think of Landstar as a company. And we're going to go into that right now. I've got 4 things that I want to cover today. Got my notes right here so I can stay on topic and not waste you guys' time. So let's go ahead and dive right in to number 1. And we're going to talk about the entry, the entry requirements and the time that it takes to get hired on to Landstar. It takes a long time. It takes about a month. Now, you can get through that a little bit faster if you are absolutely on top of everything. If you kind of micromanage their hiring department, which they outsource. And I think because it's outsourced, it might take a little bit longer, but that's speculation. The month-long process is a long time. It just is what it is. It sucks. I disagree with it. When I went and hired on to Mercer, it took me 1 week, and that was it. I was ready to go. But with Landstar, unfortunately, it is not the same thing. And I think it's worth it. I really, really do. Obviously, I'm going to get into why it's worth it. I've got some well thought out points, I think. One other thing that I wanted to cover is the Hazmat. And if you're afraid to get your Hazmat, it's not difficult at all. There's so much study material online. If you literally just Google the Hazmat CDL test, you'll see a bunch of practice tests. Generally, those tests or those questions on those practice tests are the exact same ones that are on the real test. Now, hopefully they don't figure that out. They probably know, but don't be afraid of that Hazmat requirement. And sure, maybe you don't want to run Hazmat. That's perfectly fine. Landstar is a very large company. They have a lot of customers. You do not have to run Hazmat freight if you don't want to, but it is there and you will make more money. And a lot of times their Hazmat customers are direct customers, which is certainly way more beneficial to run those. Now on to number 2. Now, number 2 is use the tools that you are given at the start when you go through their orientation class, if you're in there and you're dozing off and you're not paying attention and, you know how to drive and you've been doing this for 20 years and you don't need to pay attention. Well, that's not how you should be approaching that. They put a lot of time and effort into these tools that they give you. And yeah, sure, some of them, if you've been driving a long time, they may not benefit you. You may have a good idea, of what are good freight lanes. But at the same time, you are not familiar with Landstar's freight lanes. They're going to be different. Yes, they have a lot of stuff that's reposted from, public load boards onto the Landstar load boards. I hardly ever ran those. That's how I made as much money as I did. And I, by no stretch of the imagination, made the most money at Landstar. I'm never going to say that. I made very good money. I made good use of my time. I tried to only run direct freight. And if I was running off of the spot market, it was going to be more than worth it for me to do so. But almost always I was running direct freight, and you can do that too. And I'm going to go into a couple of the tools that they provide that I think provide the most value. Number 1 is, I think, probably the most underutilized, and that is there's a search that you can do where you can search loads by agent in a specific, it'll tell you in a specific area how many loads they're pushing out of there, how many they've pushed out of there in a previous time period, which escapes me now, but it was like either 15 days or 30 days or maybe 90 days. But regardless, it gives you an idea of who has the freight in that area. And oftentimes the agents that have the most loads out of a certain area are oftentimes, those are direct customers. Now, this is not always going to be the case, but familiarize yourself with these agents. You can look, call them up. Hey, I see you have a lot of freight that runs out of, Seattle. What is it that you have that moves out of there? I'm running a 53-foot low pro step deck. What kind of freight would you have for me? You have to be doing this. Networking is almost, actually it is, I'm going to say it. It's almost everything. If you can network and you can find the right agents, you can oftentimes just avoid looking at the load board entirely. If you live in a certain area, you can make your little triangle. And if you're smart about it, you can find your agents that will always keep you moving. If I call up agent XYZ and they send me to Denver, well, I know that I need to call up, agent ABC because they always have loads out of Denver down to, the Southwest. And I know from the Southwest, I'm going to call up agent EEE. By the way, all three of those are obviously made up, and they'll get me back to Seattle, but you get the idea. The idea is to set yourself up where you don't have to work off the load boards. You get to run nothing but direct customer freight, and you're going to make a lot more money. Whenever I first got in there, I looked at all the major cities, and I had an idea because I previously ran, open deck platform for not only the spot market, but also for Mercer. So I had a good idea of where the best freight was. And I was able to call up different agencies and get loads that I'd get loads before they were even posted on the load board. And at Landstar, they don't have to do that. At Mercer, that's a requirement, supposedly, that all the loads must be posted on the load board so it's equal for everyone. But that's not how it works at Landstar. And I'll go into that here in a little bit. But moving on, one of the other tools that is heavily underutilized is they provide you with a mentor. And I don't understand why a lot of people shut down whenever they hear that word mentor, because mentor is just a synonym for teacher. Like, that's all that I'm trying to do right here. I'm just trying to be a teacher. I'm trying to be a mentor. I'm trying to do that to the best of my ability to help out as many people as I possibly can. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, that's great. I'm still going to put out my knowledge on my channel out there for everybody to look at, discern what's for them, what's not for them, and make a decision on their own. That's all that I can do. But use these mentors, the mentors that are provided by Landstar. You're going to get so much more value out of that person than even what I can provide here, or even what all of, the YouTubers can provide combined. Because your mentors have been at Landstar for some period of time. A lot of them have been there for a long period of time. And they can point you in the right directions. They can tell you what made them successful, what was unsuccessful for them, a teaching lesson for them, not a failure, but what didn't work, what did work, where to go, who to talk to, what agents are good, what agents are bad, because they're not all created equal. Just like everything in life, there's good agents at Landstar, there's bad agents at Landstar. Landstar knows this. There's really nothing that you can do about it. It's just the nature of the beast. The mentor program, it's very underutilized, and it's one of your greatest tools. So if you decide to go to Landstar, use that. By the way, I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. I'm not being paid by Landstar. I'm not being paid by anybody. You're going to see, I'm always going to tell you if this video happens to be sponsored. This one is not sponsored. I can't legally say that unless it's true. The only thing I have are like affiliate links down in the description box down below. I guess I've got my merch down there, which I don't even shill that. But don't think that I'm that I'm just trying to get a paycheck, that I'm being paid by Landstar to say these things. Like, this is truly how I feel. So moving on to number 3. Number 3 is that Landstar is essentially, they're a safety net. And what do I mean by that? Well, they're going to be able to help you succeed in many different ways. If you're a brand new owner operator, then you don't understand how this game works. And it's just the way that it is. So you're not going to make the most money. You're not going to be able to maximize your potential out there the first year, because there's so many other things that are brand new that you're learning, that you have to figure out and find out what works for you, because what works for me may not work for you. But you have to figure out what works for you. That way you can optimize that. And then over time, you're going to make more money as an owner operator. As long as you're aware of how the market is, and, good, bad, average, whatever it is, and the more time you get under your belt, you'll be able to kind of see where you fall. Like if you had a good year or you had a bad year, you could make $240,000, one year, and that could be an excellent year. But 3 years from now, 240 is, below average. So be aware of what's going on in the markets at all times. Everything's a cycle. Everything's going to come back around. You're not, if you're in this game long enough, you're going to see it all. But be aware of cycles, understand where you're at, and know your numbers. I'm going to talk a lot about numbers in other videos. So make sure you hit that like button if you're getting some value from this video. Smash that subscribe button so you don't miss any more videos, and turn that notification bell on so you know when they actually come out. The safety net for Landstar, the CPM, the cost per mile, it's going to be a lot lower than, other companies. The main reason is because Landstar is so big. They're so big that their costs are lower than what you can get elsewhere. And that's just a fact. Like, their fuel discounts are going to be the best out of everyone because they have the most trucks running for them. So if you think about it logically, more trucks equals more gallons purchased. And if, they have an agreement, like, oftentimes agreements go, all right, in the Midwest, we'll give you 25-cent discount, as long as you hit 1 million gallons in January. But with Landstar having so many trucks, they're going to be at that upper echelon of the curve, so to speak, and they're going to get the best fuel discounts. Not only the best fuel discounts, I believe they're self-insured. And if they're not self-insured, then I don't know how to describe it. I didn't go into it. Quite frankly, I didn't care. It was good insurance. It hit what I needed to hit, and it was very, very cheap. So your cost is much lower on those two things. And those two things are oftentimes your biggest expenses, some of them, as an owner operator. And, kind of one of the other things is that, like, they have a tire program. You get a discount on tires. There's so many more bullet points I could go into. I'm only going to cover those 3 for right now. But, just discounts on tires, all of these things add up. And you may think like, oh, well, that's just $10. But $10 is $120 a year. And, over 10 years, that's $1,200. Well, $1,200 in 10 different areas, well, that's $12,000. It adds up, and it adds up very quickly. And so don't overlook any kind of discount that you may be getting on anything, because keeping your CPM as low as possible is one of the highest ways to ensure your success rate as an owner operator. One of the other things, and I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, is your pay per mile. How much you're making per mile. I don't necessarily like to look at it per mile, but it's easiest to talk about it per mile. I more look at how much I was making per day, and that kind of translated into how much did the load pay. But to keep it easier to talk about on YouTube, I'm going to talk about it in, per mile. And Landstar, I fully believe that you can make more per mile than you can in most places, not all, But in most places, because they're one of the largest companies, they have one of the best reputations, and they have a lot of direct freight. And they use that reputation that they have to their advantage. They're very, very good at it. Like they charge their customers a premium because their requirements are somewhat strict to get in. It's easier to get into other companies rather than Landstar. And as I think that's kind of the purpose for why it takes so long to actually get hired in, because they want to weed out the people that don't have the constitution to make it through just 1 month of waiting to actually get hired. So sure, do they have a lot of crap freight on their load board? Yes. But you have to look more, you have to look through the smoke to figure out why is that? Because I know that I've seen loads on there that pay $4+ a mile. Where are those loads at? They're all out there. You just got to find them. You've got to do some work. This is a business. When you become an owner operator, I can't stand that term because it implies that you're just an owner and you're operating the truck. So you're the owner of the truck. If you're, kind of looking at it like you're an owner operator, like you're kind of a glorified steering wheel holder. Don't be a glorified steering wheel holder. Be a true owner operator. Be a business owner and approach this from a business perspective. And if you do that and you apply that to all of the little areas, if you do all of the things that you really need to do to be successful running a company, you're going to make way more money. You're going to be way happier. You're going to have more home time. If you do these things, you can set yourself up to be the most successful in whatever it is that you want to do. If you only want to work 10 years and then you want to come off the road because you built up your nest egg and that allows you to invest here and then you can move on to your lifelong dream of, I don't know, renting out surfboards at the beach. So be it. Good for you. But come with a plan. Plan everything. If you don't plan, then you're planning to fail. Don't plan to fail. This is a business. Treat it like such, and it will reward you like such. Number 4, and the last thing that I want to say is I think Landstar is one of the best stepping stones that you can use, a tool that you can utilize to be successful running your own authority. Now, can you just run out and start your own authority? Of course you can. You can. Is it likely that you're going to succeed? No. Unless you have the drive. If you truly have the drive, and this is when you need to look at yourself and be honest with yourself, don't lie to yourself. Do I truly have the drive to do what it takes to do all of the little things that need to be done in order to be successful, as having my own numbers? And I'm going to say 99.9999% do not have that drive. I didn't have that drive. If I had started my authority, I would have gone out of business. But had I gone to Landstar first and then started my own authority, now I'm not saying that guarantees success, but it's going to set you up to have the most experience that you can while being successful and aiming towards doing everything yourself. Because Landstar is not going to micromanage you. They're not. The one royal pain in the ass thing that they do are those stupid 120-day inspections. I think that's absolutely asinine, and it's my biggest beef with them. But I get why they do it, because they want to make sure that all of the equipment is in as good a shape as it possibly can be, and that's going to increase their CSA scores, and that's going to leave more money in your pocket. Trust me, you do not want to work for a company that has a poor CSA score. That being said, I think Landstar is the best way, to prepare yourself to run your own authority. And sure, I know for a fact that there are guys that watch this channel that will probably leave comments. They may not, because I've, covered it so well. But I know that there are people out there that can be successful going straight into an authority, having your own authority type position. But the thing is, and And it was probably actually easy for some of them. But the truth of the matter is, it's not easy for the majority. And I think that this is the best way to kind of put the training wheels on while still making good money, but gaining that experience. That way you can move into, your next step in the evolution of your trucking career. And also, one last thing, if it's not your end goal to have your own authority, I still think Landstar is a very good place to work. You can do, basically they have all freight. They've got, you can run drive-in, you can run refrigerated, you can run anything, any size you want on any platform that you want. They've got hot shot, they've got expedited. I mean, they kind of have it all. It's a very, very good company. Yes, I know that I'm speaking very highly of them. I talked about the things that I have beef about, but overall, I think that it's an excellent, excellent company. I think they set you up for your best chance of success moving into having your own authority. Now, the one thing that I will say is if you need kind of that micromanagement, or like if you don't like to book your own loads, or, there's just some parts of being an owner operator that really don't appeal to you, I would say don't even bother. Don't waste your time. Don't go to Landstar, because you're going to fail. You really need to have that drive to want to be able to truly operate your business as well as you can. That way you can be the most successful, which means making the most money, which means giving you the most home time, or which means giving you the most chrome on your truck, or whatever it may be. But don't be a glorified steering wheel holder. Can you get by with that? Sure. But do you want to make subpar money when you have the opportunity to make top tier money? That to me just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But anyway, there's my thoughts about Landstar. Once again, not paid to say that, just the way that I truly feel. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe or ring that notification bell so you know when the next video is coming out. But as always, stay driven.